I never realized the shoes I was wearing every single day were actually slowly harming me. Now, in previous videos on my channel, I've reviewed barefoot shoes, but way before this, I was studying sports science, doing gait analysis, and selling sports shoes. Having crunched up feet like this though, isn't normal. Bunions might not be hereditary, and about 60% of us get back pain at some point. Ouch! Not to mention the knees and the aches and pains everywhere else. But a lot of this is actually preventable. It's really quite amazing to think swapping to barefoot shoes might increase your foot strength by 60% in just 6 months. So for me, swapping to almost entirely barefoot shoes 6 years ago was one of the best decisions I've ever made. But what are the differences between barefoot and regular shoes? How can we transition to barefoot shoes? And how have barefoot shoes completely changed my life after wearing them for 1,825 days? And what are my favorite barefoot shoes? It's time to get into all of that. We have huge brands selling high-tech shoes, but we have crazy amounts of joint pain, arthritis, and osteoporosis. Now, I have my own barefoot story, but I certainly don't want to be a part of any of that, and I'm keen to be as strong and mobile as possible. Now, you might be asking, why not just go completely barefoot? It's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it, to have barefoot shoes? Shoes were made for a really good reason. Now, they protect us from puncturing our feet and hurting ourselves, but with fashion evolving, there's a clear divide between form and function. And now we have shoes that elevate us into another dimension, give us moon boot-like cushioning, completely replace the need for our little foot muscles to be strong or do anything. A bit like how constantly sitting at a desk or in a car or on the sofa has kind of switched off our glutes and our muscles. Or if you've ever been in a cast for a broken bone, when you take it off, the muscle underneath has just shrunk. It's a bit like that old saying, use it or lose it. Traditional shoes have 3 main problems. They often have an elevated heel, which possibly wreaks havoc with our posture since it puts us in a forward-leaning position. They're typically made narrower than our actual foot shape for fashion reasons, which promotes toe crowding, bunions, and sores. And they can sometimes be so supportive and cushioned that our feet don't actually get a workout and we lose that sense of proprioception and balance with the ground. On the other hand, barefoot shoes have 0 drop from the heel to the forefoot, so there's literally no height difference from the back to the front of the shoe, giving you a nice natural posture. They typically offer a wider toe box so your feet can be free and the metatarsals can spread like they were designed to do, which gives you a nice, powerful and stable base. They're typically more flexible and more breathable than traditional shoes, and they have no cushioning, allowing your feet to feel absolutely everything on the ground, increasing your proprioception and making the feet muscles do all of the work to become stronger. I always used to be on my feet wearing sports shoes, a bit like the Adidas Ultra Boost. I loved those shoes, I wore them all the time every single day. But surprisingly, I noticed my feet weren't all that strong. I get a lot of niggly shin and knee type pain, and I was getting increasingly squashed feet with blisters around the side and hard skin in areas where my toes were cramped. So I first properly came across the barefoot shoe idea when I read the book Born to Run, which is a really good book if you're interested in anything barefoot and running. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Awesome book. So I decided to see if barefoot shoes would be any better. Only barefoot shoes I knew were the 5 fingers. Now, as much as I wanted to be the function instead of form guy, I couldn't bring myself to go down this route and buy those shoes. Just a personal thing in terms of how they look. But after searching around, I found vivobarefoot. These seemed like the gold standard, but studying at the time, I didn't really have the budget to buy such nice barefoot shoes. So I actually ended up going on Amazon and searching around for a cheaper pair of barefoot shoes. Now, a bit of caution here, you might not want to do exactly what I did. I jumped straight into these when I got them and I just didn't look back. However, for me, being cramped in my Adidas shoes, these cheap and cheerful 0 drop, toe spreading shoes felt unbelievable. I actually felt like I was a superhero wearing them in some ways. It almost felt like I had a caveman-like connection to the ground. I was getting some seriously achy feet though to start off with. I've gone barefoot pretty much every single day since, And I can honestly say my feet are so much stronger now. They feel more stable, they look more normal, and generally I get less niggly injuries. I've also done a lot of running in barefoot shoes, both on trails up to around 22 miles in the winter and on tarmac for around half marathon distance. I never call myself an out and out runner. I prefer to lift weights, but it's certainly paid off. It hasn't been without its challenges though. And once you've gone barefoot, you can't go back. My feet have changed just so much that they just hate being in normal shoes now. They feel too tight in many areas. You can't feel anything in them, and they can feel really quite stiff, rigid, and just stuffy. With the change in my foot shape, I'm also limited for cycling shoes, which is a bit of a drawback. But what if people find barefoot shoes simply too ugly? Well, I think barefoot shoes look pretty cool now. Maybe they didn't at the beginning, or maybe my perception has just changed. But I think especially vivobarefoot shoes, they look badass, and I think you learn to love them over time. It's almost like you're becoming part of an inside club or part of an inside joke going barefoot. And there's a lot of brands doing more normal looking barefoot shoes now, which I can link in the description below. And what is seriously cool is seeing someone else in barefoot shoes. You can kind of give each other that nod of approval.
Friends forever and ever. Oh, friend!
But should you go straight from where you are now to barefoot shoes? This might actually be the worst thing you can do. Now, obviously I did it, maybe a bit naive, but I was previously spending a lot of my time on my feet. But that might be totally different to somebody sat down most of the day in an office or a car, barely doing any walking. And you could be somebody that's had a previous injury, or you've got a current injury like plantar fasciitis, knee tendinopathy. Well, if that is you, you're probably actually gonna gain massively by going barefoot. But you're gonna have to do things slightly differently. It could be like somebody that's never ran before going to do a marathon straight away without any training. Much like if you go to the gym and you've been a few times before, you might be able to start with slightly heavier weights than if you're a complete beginner. This shows that starting point matters massively here. If you're gonna do what I did and take the hard approach and just jump straight in, I think, to be honest, that's much better than not swapping to barefoot shoes altogether. But do be seriously cautious here and understand it might be a steep learning curve with aches and pains to begin with. However, if you want to do it smarter than me, a slow but progressive approach for most people is going to be better, where you're starting to wear them just 30 minutes every day or every other day, and then you slowly build this up over time. This gives your feet the best opportunity to adapt and strengthen over time without risking any kind of injuries or having too much soreness and achy pains. I'll probably do a full dedicated video to this, but it might look something like this for the first couple of weeks or first month or so. I simply couldn't do this video without telling you the shoes I've used most on my barefoot journey, and that are my absolute favorite. And that's vivobarefoot shoes. They're super well made and they tick all the boxes for me. They're thin, flexible, protective, breathable, zero drop, wide toe box, and have various different models to suit various different occasions. And I think they look pretty damn good. There's links and discount codes in the description below to all of my favorite shoes and the models that I particularly like. And in my next video, I'm going to give you 3 important tips if you're starting your barefoot journey, so subscribe for that.